Welcome to Under Baobab Skies. The mountain remembers. Even now, when the wind sweeps through the colossal ruins of Great Zimbabwe, if you listen closely, you can still hear it. A faint, ghostly rhythm, metal striking stone, breath against darkness. It's a sound that has seeped into the very foundations of this ancient city, a testament to the lives spent in its shadow. Long before silence ruled these walls, long before tourists walked these paths, there was a man named Tawanda. He was a miner, one of countless souls who descended into the earth, not for glory, not for conquest, but for the fundamental right to keep living. Every dawn, Tawanda walked the same well-worn path. His feet, bare and calloused, knew every stone, every root. He followed the thin line of smoke that rose from the furnaces, a grey finger pointing toward the sky, signaling the start of another day of toil. The air was a potent mix, carrying the sharp, acrid scent of burning charcoal and the deep, rich smell of damp earth. It was the perfume of his existence, and woven through it all were the songs of the miners, melodies born not of joy, but of a need to make peace with the pain that was their constant companion. These were songs of resilience, humming through the morning mist. His world wasn't the one of sweeping vistas and sun-drenched plains you see today. Tawanda's world was beneath the world. It was a place where time seemed to warp, slowing to a crawl, where the very air grew heavy, thick with dust and the exhalations of laboring men. He worked by the unsteady flicker of clay oil lamps, each tiny flame trembling as if it were a soul uncertain of its connection to its body. The light danced on the tunnel walls, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to mock their every move. The tunnel walls, ancient and alive, closed in around him, whispering secrets only the deep earth knows. He'd press his ear against the cool, solid rock, and he could hear it, the heartbeat of the mountain. Thump, thump. A slow, powerful rhythm, far older than any king, any dynasty. His hammer, an extension of his own arm, rose and fell in time with that primal beat. Stone dust, fine as powdered ghosts, settled on his skin, his hair, his clothes, until he looked less like a man and more like a statue carved from sweat and earth, a living monument to human endurance. There was a belief, a story told around fires and in the hushed moments before sleep, that the gold they sought was the sun's own blood, a sacred treasure hidden deep in the belly of the mountain, waiting for the worthy to come and release it. But Tawanda, his hands raw and his back aching, knew the raw truth of it. No one was ever truly worthy of such a prize. Only desperate. Desperation was the key that unlocked the mountain's vaults. By midday, the tunnels had transformed into sweltering ovens. Breath came in short, ragged gasps. The torches hissed and dimmed, starved of oxygen, their light shrinking back from the oppressive dark. The deeper they ventured, the more the earth itself seemed to groan under the strain of their intrusion, a low, resonant sound that vibrated up through the soles of their feet, a drumbeat from below. Working beside him was his friend, Shah. He was younger, his movements quicker, his spirit burning with a fire that bordered on recklessness. Nyasha laughed, even as the dust burned his throat and coated his tongue. "Someday, Tawanda," he'd say, his voice echoing slightly in the confined space. "I'll dig until I strike the very heart of the sun." Tawanda would offer a small, tired smile but say nothing. He'd heard those words, or versions of them, 100 times before. Dreams of unimaginable wealth never left these tunnels. They were swallowed whole, absorbed by the rock, like echoes that refused to climb back to daylight. Hours bled into one another, marked only by the changing of exhausted crews. The rhythm was all that mattered. Hammer, echo, breath, silence. Hammer, echo, breath, silence. But then, the mountain spoke. Not with its usual groans, but with a new sound. A faint crack, sharp and sudden, like the sound of distant thunder trapped behind a wall of stone. A sound that cut through the monotonous drone of their work. Stop! Tawanda's voice was a raw shout, swallowed almost immediately by the tunnel's acoustics. But the others, their senses dulled by fatigue and the siren's call of gold, didn't hear him more, perhaps. They chose not to. They were too close. A particularly rich vein of gold snaked through the rock ahead. Its mesmerizing glint powerful enough to blind men to reason, to danger, to the mountain's clear warning. The faint crack deepened, multiplying, becoming a terrifying roar. The earth shifted beneath them, the roof above them trembled, and then, with a final, deafening groan, the mountain fell. Darkness, absolute and suffocating, swallowed everything. When Tawanda regained consciousness, his mouth was thick with dust. He coughed, the action sending daggers of pain through his chest. The comforting glow of the torches was gone. The air was still and heavy, and his lungs burned, begging for mercy with every shallow breath. Panic, cold and sharp, tried to take hold. He called out for Nyasha, his voice hoarse and weak. The only reply was silence, punctuated by the soft, steady dripping of water somewhere in the oppressive blackness. He began to crawl. His palms, pressed flat against the cold, unforgiving rock, guided him through the unknown. His entire body trembled, a combination of fear, shock, and the immense weight of the earth above him. Every movement felt borrowed, every breath a desperate negotiation with death. But even there, in that tomb of rock and silence, Tawanda whispered a prayer. He didn't pray for rescue, not for himself. He prayed for remembrance. "Let them know we were here," he murmured into the darkness, his words a fragile offering to the stone. "Let the stone keep our names." He oriented himself by a faint, almost imperceptible draft of wind, a promise, however small, that somewhere beyond this collapsed reality, the world still existed. His fingers traced the wall, a lifeline in the void. They brushed against smooth sections, then rough, jagged edges, until they met something else, something soft, a hand, cold and still. Nyasha's Tawanda bowed his head, the weight of his grief heavier than any rock. In that moment, the mountain felt like both a tomb and a womb, a place holding death and the faintest possibility of life in the same dark, silent breath. He began to whisper the old miner's song, the words a balm to his shattered spirit. "We dig for those who cannot rise, we breathe for those who cannot speak. We burn for the gold that blinds the gods." The ancient lyrics filled the void, a tribute to his fallen friend and all the others lost to the mountain's embrace. Then he kept crawling, toward the whisper of air, toward the memory of the sun. When he finally emerged, breaking through the rubble into the light, the sun struck his face like a physical blow, a blinding, holy vision. He collapsed to his knees, his skin ghosted white with dust. A spectre returned from the underworld. Around him, the world seemed impossibly bright, unbearably loud. Birds sang their evening songs. Children laughed near the furnaces, their joyful sounds a jarring contrast to the silence he had just escaped. Everything felt unreal, a dream from which he couldn't wake. The other miners and villagers saw him and ran to help, their faces a mixture of shock and awe, but Tawanda's eyes remained fixed on the ground. He couldn't stop hearing it, that slow, deep heartbeat of the mountain, still thrumming beneath his feet. That night, he sat by the communal fire, wrapped in a blanket, a ghost among the living. The gold that Nyasha had so desperately chased was gone, buried forever under tons of stone and the relentless march of time. But Tawanda kept something. In his tightly clenched hand, he held a single sharp-edged pebble, a small piece of the tunnel that had almost claimed him. To anyone else, it was just a rock. To him, it was enough. It was a reminder that the earth remembers everything, even when people do not. Years passed, the mines eventually closed, the furnaces grew cold, and the once bustling city of Great Zimbabwe fell quiet. Yet, the wind that now whispers through its empty corridors and across its stone enclosures still carries the sound of a hammer and the ghost of a breath. Some will tell you it's just the echo of the past, a trick of the wind, but others, the old storytellers, say it's Tawanda, still working, still praying, still asking the mountain to forgive. So if you ever find yourself walking these magnificent ruins at dusk, when the shadows grow long and the world holds its breath, listen closely. You might just hear it too, that slow, steady rhythm rising from beneath the ground. The mountain's eternal memory of the men who dreamed and died beneath its ribs. Because not all treasures glitter with gold. Some whisper on the wind. Some endure in stone, and some simply continue to breathe through the dust of history. This story is just one small part of a much larger tapestry. To discover more about the lives, the mysteries, and the enduring legacy of this incredible place, be sure to watch our full-length documentary right here on the channel. Thank you for joining us. You are under baobab skies.